Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Quo Vadis Podcast. The Catholic podcast helps you begin with the end in mind. I'm Taylor, joined by Father Mark Mlezeva. Hey, Father Mark.
Hello.
Hey, I have a question for you. You're big into wrestling, and we've discussed this many times on the podcast. But you shared with us one time what your rap name might be. That was a little off the cuff. Episode with Father Patrick Costello. Go listen to that episode if you're wondering what that might be. Did you ever fantasize about what your wrestling name may be when you were a kid? You 100% did. You can't deny that's not a possibility.
So when I was growing up, we were allowed to have video games periodically. So one of the platforms for the young ones was something called the Nintendo 64, or the N64 for short.
Never heard of it.
And
just kidding.
There were a couple of games. There was the
GoldenEye,
WCW, NWO World Tour. That's wrestling. Then they had Revenge. Then WWE, WWF at the time had theirs, WrestleMania and No Mercy. But all my brothers, we created wrestlers.
Oh, in the game.
In the game.
Okay.
So my created wrestler, I can't believe this, was Bubba Stein.
Bubba Stein.
True statement. He wore red and black.
Okay.
And I forgot what the finisher was.
I was going to ask, what was the finishing move?
It was probably like a choke slam.
Is that
a good solid?
Is that like your favorite finisher? Is a choke slam? Kind of a dynamic choke slam thing going on?
I don't know what makes it dynamic per se, but it's just a good, the thought, of course, is this guy is lifting him up by his one arm, which is not really the case, but it looks, you think you can pick somebody up by one arm and just throw them down? It's a pretty boss move. So I don't remember. I don't know if those are still saved.
You should try firing them up sometime. Next time you're at home, you should try finding Bubba Stein and see what your finishing move is.
See what my finisher was. I don't think that's what it was, but I don't remember what it was.
So when you would wrestle with your brothers, which I'm guessing you probably did, what was your attempted finishing move on your brothers? Did you have one that you liked?
We didn't really have finishing moves.
No? Oh, that's too bad.
Yep.
Whenever I would wrestle with my friends, like when I was when I was in the WWE, when I was younger, it was always a suplex. I always loved doing suplexes. There's something great about just wrapping your arms around a guy and whoosh, just whipping him back. Yeah. It's so much fun.
But were you doing that on trampolines?
Yeah,
or what?
Trampolines.
Okay.
Yep. And then I remember actually, my dad yelled at me and my stepbrothers one time because he had this really big. It was kind of like a I don't know, what were those big It's not a couch. It's it's not inflatable. A beanbag. It was like a really big beanbag. That's what I'm looking for.
Like the love sack?
Yeah, that's what it was. Right. He had the giant ones.
The gals left one of those at our house.
Did they
used
really?
To live in the Holy Name of Jesus.
Do you still have it?
No, I think Father Adam pitched it.
That's probably a smart idea.
I used to do wrestling with my little nephew. I used to just powerbomb him into the love sack.
Yes, exactly.
And he loved it.
Yeah, because there's almost no impact. Except then one time we got yelled at by my dad because I think I suplexed my stepbrother into it and then it ripped. So it does have a breaking point apparently. So that was always kind of the fun part there.
The tenacity in which you suplex.
I guess it depends on how angry I was, right? When I
wonder the etymology where that came from. The suplex.
The suplex. I don't know. It's interesting. But anyway, we have a guest with us today who hopefully will not try to suplex us or choke slam us during the recording.
He probably could because the man, we'll probably get into this, the man was a rower. So when it comes to upper body strength,
game changer.
He got it.
Game changer.
He could probably choke slam you.
We're going to try it later.
You better watch out. Out.
Yeah, get him.
We're going to go find a nice couch doesn't belong to us. You can
choke if you drove around Green Bay, we could find someone on
you can choke slam all 200 pounds
somewhere.
of me, and we'll see what happens. Probably only good things. We have with us today the Reverend Father Kevin Ripley. He is the new incoming director of the Kairos Year. He was previously the parochial vicar at St. Raphael the Archangel Parish in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, priest-celebrant in Amro and Winneconne, and chaplain at Lourdes High School. So you're
Academy.
Lourdes Academy.
Yes.
That's right.
I apologize. Yep. So your title is getting shorter. Director of the Kairos Year. Congratulations on that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
But you'll have something in addition to that as well.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah,
so
and
anyway,
priest-celebrant at UWGB.
That's right. Okay. Yep. So so some things are changing, some things aren't. Anyway, Father Kevin, good to have you with us
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
Great. I'm doing very well.
Good.
Yeah. Couldn't ask for a nicer day. And, this is... I've heard you guys on the podcast a little bit. I'm not an avid listener. I got to be honest.
Well, he's very honest. That's we appreciate that. We work with that.
Long-time listener, first-time caller kind of thing going on. Yeah,
but very happy to be here, and I do hope to listen a little more. And because just looking at the titles of some of the podcasts as you scroll through, like, wow, I'd like to listen to that. Yep, like to listen to that. Okay, well.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
There we go.
We're getting it. So were you a fan of WWE back in the day, Father Kevin? Were you a wrestler?
You know what? I was never a wrestler. I did like watching a little bit that professional wrestling stuff. I thought it was kind of fun. Never got a whole lot into it. There was my last week in high school, there was an open mat in Pulaski High School. They had open mat.
That sounds dangerous.
And I thought, I'm going to show up. I was an athlete and different things. Never thought of trying wrestling, but I'm going to show up. One of the wrestlers invited me to come, and that particular wrestler was probably about 50 pounds on me, above me. And I thought, well, what's the worst that could happen? So we get down. He shows me kind of how to do the opening move. How do you start?
Right.
And within 5 seconds, he flipped me around 360 degrees with my neck. And I'm like, what?
So he almost chokeslammed you. That's what you're saying.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
And I was done.
That sounds done. To
I wasn't
me,
injured by any means, but I was
No.
like, how did that just happen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah.
They're good.
Well, that's the real deal stuff. I mean, that's
Yeah.
That's like Kurt Angle kind of stuff right there.
Well, see, Kurt Angle's not a great example because he did the real stuff.
He was.
And then did professional
He was
wrestling. So
He was a gold medalist.
He was.
He used to wear it when he
the
did
most
his
celebrated
entrance.
real athlete in sports entertainment is what they used to say.
How many of these intros do you have memorized?
Well, I don't watch anymore. It's
No,
just
I know, but like
I
from
don't
the
know,
past.
these things just stick in your mind. From Sarasota, Florida. No, I don't. It's like that was the Macho Man. Actually, he was from Sarasota, Florida.
I should introduce you that sometime on the podcast that way. From Luxembourg, Wisconsin, standing
the
in at
same.
6 feet 1
I am
inches.
6'1.5".
Okay, well that was pretty close. Yeah, thank
you.
you.
Just
Yeah.
leave it at 6. I'm like, I am 6'1.5".
I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know how tall this guy is. How tall
Don't
am
say
I?
my weight.
How tall am I?
You're 5'8".
That's correct.
Like Kevin, he's 6 feet.
You're about 6 feet, man.
6'1".
6'1".
So what I'm hearing
Yep.
is that I'm going to take both of you down just fine. You guys can be tag team. And
See if you
I'll-
can do the double choke slam. That'd be really impressive.
Oh yeah,
But you probably have to confess it if you choke slam 2 priests.
that's actually a really good point. So anyway, well,
Actually, I'm 6'1.5". But I try to claim that every little bit.
yeah.
But
People
this
always
one,
do.
the idea of looking at someone and try to judge what they are. So when I went to visit Rome in March, I go into the store Barbaconi where they sell clerical items, and I'm asking for a couple shirts, and the guy looks at me, 47. I'm like,
this is neck
yeah,
size.
you're right.
wow,
that's
he's
my
able
neck
to
size.
guess it just by
He was
looking
able to
at
guess
it.
as it, and he didn't even question me. He was just telling me that's my size.
You're 47?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
The other day you asked me what my neck size was, and I got really self-conscious when you asked me that question.
Well, the thing is, so for our listeners in Europe, they use the metric system, so it's centimeters. It's 47 centimeters.
Yeah,
As opposed to ours is usually in inches.
yeah, right.
So yours is probably like a 17 and a half.
Think so?
I'm guessing.
I got really self-conscious when he started telling me about my neck size. He told
Well,
me.
it's
He
like
asked
the only
me,
reason,
he
like-
asked me if I could button my top button. I was like, yeah, and I did it, and it was like, it looked like my head could explode. So technically,
impressive.
I
That he knew
could
your
do
neck.
it. Yeah, that is really
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
really impressive.
yeah.
Well, we would love to get to
Okay.
know you a little better, besides just your neck size as well. So anyway,
your inability to wrestle. Well, that was only one time. It was just one time.
Thanks for coming on the show. Really good to have you. So anyway, so part of the podcast, Father Kevin, is to gather the vocation stories of how the Lord has worked in the hearts of those who have said yes to their particular vocation, how He desires to save them. And so we've had many priests on the show, some sisters, some lay religious, or some lay married people as well, to share their vocation story. So we'd love to hear your vocation story as well. So you can take us to any part in your life that you want to kind of begin with that helps kind of give us the frame of how the Lord called Kevin Ripley to the priesthood.
Great.
Take us away on a
Yeah,
journey.
so we're going to start on the playground at Assumption BVM School in Pulaski. The first thing I want to just kind of share is the beginnings of an openness to a call. And that God could be calling me or planning something for me. So I was on the playground. We were, I think, maybe 4th grade, climbing up this ladder that goes kind of in an arc.
Oh, yeah.
I'm following some of my friends. And behind me, I heard this girl kind of yell out, like, help! Or I'm falling. I can't remember what it was. But I look back, and sure enough, there's this girl.
Damsel in distress.
Yeah. And I instinctively just reach out my hand, right? And I grab her hand. I pull her in. And she says, wow, thank you so much. You saved my life. right?
Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
did I really? I mean, she probably she would have fell maybe 8 feet.
Sure.
You know, could have gotten hurt. I don't know if the worst would have happened, but she was serious, right? And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Then I was getting behind from my friend, so I kept running. But later on in the day, I get a ping down from the office and the PA system. Kevin Ripley, report to the principal's office, and I had never gotten called to the principal's office.
Did you know where it was?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I knew where it was. My mom. Worked at the school. And I had never gotten called, and I was nervous. I go down there, wide-eyed. I sit down, and she gives me the certificate that said, "Congratulations for saving someone's life."
Wow.
I was so happy. Like, wow. That feels pretty good. I actually saved someone's life today. I forgot about it earlier.
You still have the certificate somewhere?
I don't know. I gotta find out. I gotta
take
find
that out
out.
and hang that up in your office for sure.
I'd be surprised if
hang
we
it up in
didn't.
your office.
Yeah,
That's office hangable worthiness.
Absolutely.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I gotta find that out.
So
yeah,
you got
it might
the certificate.
Be. Yeah. So I was pretty happy about that. Saving someone's life. I could get used to doing that kind of thing.
Yeah. I like it.
When they asked early on in school, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said firefighter, because I knew that they see people's lives. Like that'd be kind of a cool thing to do.
Right.
Make a big difference in people's lives. Now, what that kind of said was, in a certain sense, there's this desire to help people, and even on a big level like that, I didn't quite understand the whole thing. She wouldn't have died and all that, right? But I was there. Now, another thing related to that, I was at a family reunion over at Bayshore Park. You been there?
I think so.
It's play baseball there.
Yeah. So there's like a bunch of different things, campsites, baseball field, And the Packers used to have their training camp there, actually, way back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was playing football with some of my cousins and my brother. And we were off on the kind of towards the cliff. There's a big fence and everything. It's, we weren't dangerous at all. But my mom had recently told me that, someone had fallen off that cliff in the past months and it didn't make it. And she was maybe trying to warn me, just don't go close.
It is steep though.
Yeah.
Warning.
Oh yeah. There's
very
different parts where it's steep.
Yeah.
It's not super high, but yeah. So one time the football went kind of close to that fence, and it was the one test to go get it, and I picked it up, and I just had a moment. I looked down the edge, and I thought, wow, life is kind of precious. I was probably 10 years old, 5th grade, and I just had this sense, I wonder if, I'm alive. I wonder, does God have a plan for me? It was just this moment. Those two things don't connect completely, but in that moment, I think God gave some grace to, make that connection.
Right.
Sure. Life is precious. Does God have a plan to me? I think he does. He must. I'm here. I could have, we go on the road driving as a family. There's close calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
God's kind of got something ahead for me. So then I went back and, kept playing football. So I had that openness to some sort of plan that God had for me. That was a big thing. There's different examples, but those are the two that really stick out. The priests at Assumption BVM, where I grew up, were the Franciscans. Great, happy priests. Really good example. They did a lot.
Who was the priest during most of your? I don't know if there was during most of your upbringing.
During
or not.
most of my upbringing was Father Patrick Gorgleski.
Yeah.
Gillespie.
Don't even try to guess how to spell that one.
Not giving me a try.
It's yeah.
I might not even said it right. Yeah, it's kind of a long name, and he was, I think, the priest when I had my first communion. There was a couple other priests before then that I remember. Father Ed was one of them. He was fun. But yeah, Father Patrick, when I, this is kind of jumping ahead, but when I went off to college, he was still the priest, but then there was a change of priests when I was in college. I didn't really come back a whole lot during college. And then when I was done with college, he was reassigned.
Yeah.
So it's like he never left for me. Yeah. Isn't it, it was kind of cool.
Break in time was not real. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you were there with the Franciscans. I mean, so did the, so the question that we have to ask, because Father Mark brought it up one time, was, did you ever get brown fever? Meaning,
actually,
did you ever
he knows.
Okay, well, maybe the people at home don't. It's discerning the Franciscans.
Yeah. So the next thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
One time, Father Patrick, I think I was probably in 3rd grade, something like that, 4th grade. He told me, Kevin, you look good in brown.
That's great.
And he said that plenty of times later on, too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I didn't really know a whole lot about St. Francis. And, but I did kind of agree, I do look good in brown. Kind of superficial though, right? I didn't really think a whole lot about the priesthood. There was one point where I was open to the idea of playing mass at one point. I think I was down in Florida with my family on vacation with my grandparents, and we were kind of getting close to the idea, like maybe I'm going to try it, but then I shied away. I didn't want to do it. So there was something there. There was a polka days I went to one year. Polka days is a big festival where they bring the best polka bands from around the country and really the world, and it's a big to do. And there's an outdoor mass and an indoor mass the same day, different times, and the indoor mass was usually pretty hot compared to the outdoor mass,
which is
and
ironic.
It was packed. Right. There's no AC. They have AC now, but it was always really hot, the hottest point of the year, end of July. And I had this thought. I saw one of the priests sweating, and I saw all the stuff on, and I thought, I could never be a priest because I sweat way too much. I was kind of a chubby little boy. Like, I sweat a lot.
Can I throw something in real quick?
Yeah.
Is one of his first mass. I think it might have been your first mass. He did at the Carmelite Monastery. I happened to be there. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, he chanted everything. He preached. He did the whole bit. It was just beautiful. But I felt so bad for Father Kevin because it was dripping down his face.
Oof.
It was, you're nervous.
All those things.
So
like, play a factor.
I don't know. Was it Father Bill Evans? Maybe I think somebody came up and gave you a little something.
Father Girardi.
Oh, Father Girardi did. Okay.
Handed me a handkerchief.
But you crushed it. But I'm like, oh my gosh, that poor guy. Anyway.
Yeah. That's happened a few times for different things.
Is there a liturgical garb to wipe away sweat?
Used to be the maniple.
That's right. Yeah, right. The maniple. You should bring that back. And then people ask you why. It's practical, man. I need it.
Oh man.
I actually did that during my wedding.
You wore a maniple?
No, I didn't wear a maniple, but I had to ask for something to wipe my. So I was super sweaty. I'm a very sweaty person, and it was and the day of my wedding, I remember week before my wedding, calling the parish office, and be like, "Can you guys just like crank the AC in the church for me, please? I'm gonna need it so bad." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." And I was still just sweating bullets during the whole ceremony. And so after Rachel and I received the communion, we were kneeling down in front of the altar, and John and John Heineck was a seminarian for us at the time, and he was serving the mass. And I knew John from high school. I looked over at John. I was like, "John," I can't call him over to me. He walks over all piously, and he goes, "What?" And I'm like, "John, I'm sweating. I need you to give me a paper towel." So he goes in the back, gives me a paper towel, comes back. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And Rachel's like rolling her eyes at me. I'm like, not even an hour married, and I'm already wiping off all that sweat. So I understand the urge to need to do that. So anyway, so you saw a priest celebrating mass, sweat, and you thought, I can't do that. Couldn't do it. Okay.
I don't know if that was the devil or what.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
But yeah, that was kind of a decision I made. In that moment. Yeah, I probably could never do that. So I went to grade school till 5th grade, and then I went to public school, middle school, Pulaski, religious ed. Not going to go into that. There was a youth group I was in, which was awesome. Carly Pennings was our youth minister, and she was really good.
Shout out to Carly.
Shout out to Carly. She'd be mad if I didn't make a shout out to her. So I don't know if she's going to listen to this. I'll send it to her.
So there you go. There you go. Yeah.
So I can say, finally, Carly, I shouted you out. Yeah. No, God bless. She was awesome. In that point of my life. Actually went to CYE between 8th and 9th grade, going into high school. They took a huge group from Assumption, and I think it was the last summer they were at Chambers Island.
Oh, wow.
So here we are with about 30 kids out in Chambers Island. I think on the Quo Vadis,
sure was on
the trip
the boat
out there.
Yeah,
the boat.
That's right.
I remember Father Quinn or Father Luke, I don't know who it was, one of the two, all of a sudden flying by the Quo Vadis on skis. Like, whoa, what's going on here?
That's awesome.
That was totally staged. That's amazing.
Yeah, they got to get there somehow.
Absolutely,
from Fish Creek to the island. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but the reason I bring that up was two things happened on that. One was experience in adoration. I had gone to adoration maybe a couple times before, briefly. I didn't quite know what was going on. But in adoration, think we did a procession and then settled down in the dark with the monstrance on the makeshift altar. I can't remember the whole setup, but I know I was kneeling there, and I just started to realize that, wow, this is Jesus, and like encountered his love, and I started crying, like, whoa, and I would look away because I couldn't really take it. I was like, what's going on? And there was like these girls around too. I didn't want to like be crying in front of everybody, and but then I like, well, I really gotta look back. I gotta look back. So I look back at the Eucharist, and then the same thing, and just be overwhelmed by God's love, and like, this is Jesus, and there was confession, everything that night. It was great, a lot of grace. But what I took from that was there's way more to this than I ever thought.
Mm.
And so that would stick with me even till now. But other things have happened obviously since then. But like, that was a huge, huge moment. And now the other thing that happened on that was I prayed Lectio Divina for the first time, and that's not really what I'm bringing up. But after Lectio, there was some time of sharing, and I think Father Quinn gave a talk, and in it, he mentioned, just really offhandedly, as far as I remember, one of the reasons for CYE is for young people to discern God's call, and like the call to be a priest or sister, and which is just a fact, right? That's one of the one of the goals for CYE or anything that we do to promote prayer and relationship with God. That's just part of the Christian life. I know now. But at that moment, I got a little angry. I felt like some people were working to like try to get me to be a priest or something like that. And I was like, I don't like this. And that lasted a few minutes. And then there was some other fun thing we were doing. But I experienced that. Which kind of tells you something, like there was something going on within me, right? When I would hear intercessions at Mass later in high school, that was right between 8th. So later in high school, when I would hear intercessions, we pray for vocations to the priesthood, religious life. I think one time they said, especially from our parish, I'm looking around like there's not a whole lot of people my age or that would be
not
priests.
A whole lot of candidates.
Not here too.
Me.
and I thought. I wasn't getting angry at that point, but I was at a different point. I was at a different point at that. I was thinking, is this talking about me? Is this me? Kind of was one of those. Then I would just dismiss it, right? As a kid, I said I couldn't. That's not too much.
Yeah.
That wasn't a recurring theme.
No.
But I'd already kind of dismissed it, right?
Yeah,
and I was kind of like, no, it can't be. But it was there. It was there. I would go on to study engineering at UW-Madison.
Another Madison.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot of Madison
Yeah.
people here. Okay. Yeah.
Father Mark.
Silver Lake.
Soon to be Father Ben Pribido.
Yes.
Yep.
Soon to be.
Yep.
Yes. Amen. Yeah. So I had different interests growing up. Architecture, art. I loved art, and then I liked math all of a sudden in 8th grade, and then I wanted to be an engineer all throughout high school. Pretty convinced. Very career focused there, right? Interest in that stuff. And so I went to Madison, gung-ho to apply for the engineering school. Things are going well with that. I also was in sports in high school, track and cross country and bowling all 4 years. The track and cross country just the last 2 years. So and in band, I was big into band, huge into band.
Okay.
So I either wanted to be in the band in Madison.
Trumpet?
I did trumpet to help 1 year for marching, but I did trumpet for jazz.
Okay.
But French horn was my main instrument.
What did you play when you guys did the concert at St. Raphael's?
Trumpet.
Okay.
That was a polka concert.
No,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
I just, in my mind, I was trying to remember what
so
you played.
I
and I
played
pictured
trumpet, but my main instrument was
the
French horn.
Which I was heard is tough because the mouthpiece is so small.
Yeah, it's a small mouthpiece. And the notes, the fingerings don't change as much the note as much as your embouchure, which is tough. You kind of have to memorize.
Did you get that?
I don't know what embouchure is.
I don't the tightness of your lips and all that stuff. The trumpet's
throw
like
me under the bus.
I came clean.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
The trumpet's much easier to manipulate and to get the right note than the French horn. Let's just say that. But yeah, I loved it. French horn, beautiful. So I was going to be in the band or sign up for try to get in some sport, which I thought maybe MSOE initially, but I ended up going to Madison, and so I thought, well, there were some things going on with the band at the time that weren't so attractive. With some being in the news and different things for not good reasons. And it was just the timing. So I didn't ever look into the band seriously. But I realized, maybe I could try out for the rowing team. I got the cardio. I was a weightlifter too because for some health reasons, I was lifting weights. And so I got the strength, got the cardio. Maybe, I'll put in a request to the coach up there and see what they think. So I submitted this form online and I did that. And he said, well, come to this camp. So I went to the camp and ended up liking it and trying out. Made the rowing team. Ended up doing that all 4 years for the Badgers. And
were you any good?
Oh.
At rowing?
Well.
Were you good? I mean, did you guys win something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, are
there titles? Are there accolades?
So
a championship belt?
I made the freshman boat. There's 32 guys in the freshman team. Okay. Used to be every sport had a freshman team, but now just rowing does. Okay. Actually, I think they got rid of it now. When I was there, they still had a freshman team. Now they just have like a novice event. Regardless, I made the freshman team. I was on the first boat, the first 8 guys. I was pretty strong in the rowing machine itself. Pretty promising. Once I learned how to row a little better, started to feel more promising on the water. It doesn't transfer always. It doesn't. Yeah, it never fully transferred for me. I couldn't ever quite completely figure it out. And then my sophomore year, I made the second varsity boat, the JV boat, and that's one of the traveling boats. So we'd go to all the, we'd fly out to all these different races, which was really fun. And in my sophomore year, we won the Eastern Championship. Wow. On the second boat. It was a big deal. It was actually a very big deal. Yeah. And when you win in rowing, you're going against, in these championships, you're going against 23 other teams. So there are six heats, 4 heats rather, of 6, my bad, 4 of 6 of the top 24 boats. And when you take first, you get the shirt off the back of every other team of the guy who is in your seat in the respective other boats. Really? Yeah. Wow. They got to come up and they got to give you. Sometimes it's the actual shirt. Sometimes it's like shirts they bring along. Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. That's cool. So I got that. Okay, I got all these shirts. Yeah. I gave away a lot of shirts. Yeah. Or the team gave away a lot of shirts. Sure. For me. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a big thing. The junior and senior year, I went to the national championship. We took, I think, 11th my junior year. I was in the top boat for the team, the Badgers varsity team, and we took, I think, 12th my senior year. Okay. Nationally. So while at Madison, then you're doing all these things, and then maybe you felt the Lord calling there too. Yeah. So the point bringing this to was I had these 2 groups, and then I had decided, well, I'm going to go to church on my own. Finally, made that decision which is a big decision. I knew that there was still more to this than I had thought. That was kind of the connection. There's more to this, and I knew this was worth continuing because there's still more that I didn't know, still more to experience. And I liked to have that community back from that youth group, back from different retreats I went on. I went on tech in high school as well, a few times even to help with it. So I joined a Bible study. That first day going to Mass, they put out cards to say, what are you interested in? And ended up having this group of 5 other college guys and one who was the year ahead of us to be our leader. Tom Dobbins was his name. And Tom Dobbins. Shout out to Tom. Shout out to Tom. His Bible study that was started that year lasted something like 11 years. Wow. Continuously. Not the same people the whole time. Some of the same people because some of them went on to grad school at UW-Madison. Sure. Some of them went on to be professors. So that's quite the group, though. The Tom Dobbins that Bible study was infamous. It was famous. Something. Yeah, it was something. So anyways, so that was a huge thing, huge blessing. Starting to practice my faith more intentionally, learn more about the Bible, the spiritual life, seeing the witness of other college students praying on their own, going to the church to pray. Right. All these things started to just kind of be absorbed into it. Started to take some of these these spiritual practices on for my own. After morning practice, by my junior year, I was walking over to St. Paul's to go to morning prayer. I started to go to daily mass once in a while during the week. My sophomore year, started doing that. They had this Wednesday night candlelit mass that I would go to. Just getting more plugged in. I was helping at the front desk, just answering phones and a lot of different things. It was really good time. Going on a different retreat once in a while, the new student retreat and the fall retreat. There's a lot of growing in faith is the point. As I grew in faith, began to pray more, just more stuff started opening up, right? I had a mentor, Blake Malley, through Varsity Catholic, which is a Focus branch, a Focus organization. He started meeting with me every week in my sophomore year, quote unquote, to talk about Jesus. That was his pitch. I was like, okay, yeah. How can I say no to that, right? Like, I don't want to talk about Jesus. Yeah, can't do that. No, sorry. Okay. So yeah, we did that. We would meet at like Subway or some restaurant over lunch, and he challenged me one day. We were sitting at the student union. He challenged me, Kevin, you're gonna get married someday, right? And I thought, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And he asked me just point blank, well, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? I'm like, nothing. I'm too busy. I got all this stuff, and I was too busy. I mean, I was way too busy. I was experiencing around that time for the first time in my life, experiencing like these physical effects of stress. Like not gonna get too much, but like hives.
Yeah, right.
People
sure.
experience that. Like I was experiencing that. Whoa, that wasn't good. And so, honest answer, yeah, I'm too busy. I can't be looking for a wife. But he just kind of challenged me, like, well, okay, fair enough, but just think, like, this is a perfect opportunity for you to do that, like with St. Paul's, with just being in college, around some great people. And two, this is the bigger point, if this is what God is calling you to, you got to act on it eventually, somehow. Like,
right.
You got to pay attention to that. If this is a big deal, like why are you not doing anything? Okay, I don't know if you worded it quite like that, but that's what I took. And what I came from that was this idea of vocation really opened up for me, because if God is calling me to that, well then what's the point of this career I'm working so hard on in engineering? Like, why, what would it be unless to support a family, right? Sure, I can make a good in the world and do all these good things, but I just had this career kind of floating out there on its own, and it really needed to be connected with God's calling in my life. So that started a whole trajectory, I think, from that day onward. Not too dramatic, but like that was a change.
It's interesting though too. What I've noticed so far has been there, and this is something that we keep noticing, especially when we interviewed priests about their vocation story, is how there's a lot of small moments, like little things that like, if you like when you're saying them out loud, almost seem insignificant, right? Like you're like, I guess this moment, but a lot of small moments that the Lord slowly makes his way kind of into our heart and helps us to see things a little bit more clearly. Like, is it like for you? Well, saving people. This is beautiful. Life is precious. Does God have a plan for me? And then all of a sudden, kind of moving in this deeper sense of like, what am I going to do with that life now? All of a sudden, so like those small moments seem like they keep on cascading closer and closer to this deeper yes. So how did you take all those small things and eventually turn it into this yes? Like, was there a moment
even
of
like
a yes?
that saving people, like, so at some point in college, I experienced very clearly, I had been experiencing very clearly God's saving action in my life, Christ's like grace in my life, and that's coming through the priests. And, eventually this thought comes to my mind, well, could God be asking me to save souls? There was one point where Father Eric Nielsen caught me after, I think, a daily mass. And he says, and I had been altar serving a little bit at that point. He says, I think if you were a priest, you would save 1 million souls. And I kind of scoffed, like, no way, what? I kind of caught by surprise. He said, well, yeah, well, maybe at least 100,000.
It helps if you know the guy. But I can see him just like very matter of fact, like not like so big, he's just kind of like a comment. Like I can see you say it, like he just would say, like
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was funny because later on you get that book. I got that book.
To save 1,000 souls. Yeah,
sure. 1,000. Like I need the upgrade, man.
Father Brett's
that's much more reasonable.
Father Brett's a much more realistic man, right?
Yes. I wonder if he debated what number to put on there. It just has a good ring to it.
We should have asked him when he's on the podcast. We should have asked him.
We save 1 million.
We had him in the podcast actually, so we'll have
it's like a tradition. But I guess I never really heard it till the book or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Anyway,
he invited me on this discernment retreat way up in Hayward. Ooh. It was a silent retreat, first ever silent retreat. I had waffled so much on saying yes to that. I said I would think about it, and because I was going on dates, I was doing ballroom dance and
rowing
and all this stuff.
Slamming people.
Eventually, I emailed them. Is there still openings on that? And of course, there was.
It's the same thing for the St. Andrew Day. Yeah, just come.
And it was amazing. And on that retreat, just had some good experiences in prayer with nature. It was in the winter, involved looking up in the stars at one point, which is just this kind of sense of, I had an opening of my eyes about vanity in my life, in its experience looking up in the universe and in this moment of prayer. There was this song by Mumford & Sons that kind of came to my mind one time walking through the woods, Awake My Soul.
Oh, yeah.
And the words, still to this day, cut my heart. But the words of the time, it was, in this body you will live, in this body you will die. Where you invest your love, you invest your life. And there's just lyrics about just opening up to our uncertainties and to admit that we don't know everything. And it's all in the song. But that moment where you invest your love, you invest your life, I had tried to get rid of the song because I was trying to pray, but then I realized, God is actually using this song to speak to me.
Yeah.
And he's telling me that's it. Invest your love. That's where your life is. Am I investing my love in things that don't matter?
Right.
I was in a lot of cases. Why was I on rowing? Eventually, my senior year, I had this more evangelistic mindset for it. The only reason I said yes to rowing my senior year, I already knew I was applying to seminary. I told the coach, I think God, it can do something through me on this team. He wanted me to help win a race, which was fine and dandy, and I tried my best. But
sure,
that whole year, the coach threw his megaphone on the water. He's calling me Father Ripley. Hands down. Put your hands down. Stop waving the blade. Father Ripley.
Father Ripley.
All the guys calling me Father Ripley.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It is
because you go by last name in a sport, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in where am I investing my love? That's in John Paul II. I took this little class in college with Father Eric, about the meaning of love and self-gift, and it just made so much sense. And had a better understanding of marriage and to give yourself as a gift. Yeah, priests do that, and it just started to click, especially with the diocesan priesthood in a way that it never struck me. Just an amazing thing. So little by little, I took the summer off before senior year to try to discern.
Yeah.
Told Father Schuster, I just want to figure this out. He came to my house. He's like, well, you don't figure it out. God kind of figures it out for you. But I said yes, to go on the retreat with the seminarians, and things started moving pretty quickly. It's just a beautiful time in my life. Get people telling me different situations. Are you going to be a priest? Or I think you'd be a good priest. God just sent people into my life. And just the opportune moments, I could go into a lot of them, but just say that God was working, and I could tell.
Yeah.
And it was very concentrated time where God needed to do that, I think. And for me to take the next step, even of saying, no, I'm not going to do the sport, which would be like a mortal sin in the sports world to take a summer off before your senior year.
Yeah.
But it all worked out. All worked out very well. So, by my spring of my senior year, I was up late in the engineering computer lab one day during spring break for a rowing training.
Went?
No, it was in the CAE lab.
Okay.
Yeah, across from Went.
Went
Yes.
was the
Across the
engineering
All this
library.
insider
Yeah, I wasn't in that
baseball
one. I was
talk
just in
over
the
here.
lab itself. Yeah.
I used to study there when I had a stats class out there. I felt like they knew I wasn't an engineering student. Like, what's he doing here?
Outsider.
Be gone. Anyway.
Yeah, and at like 2 a.m. I printed it off, and the next day, in between practices, during spring break rowing training camp, one of my friends took me to the post office in Edgerton.
Oh yeah.
Which is where we had there's a river there we were rowing on. And he had this car that was like a race car. There was no seatbelts. We had to wear headphones because it was so loud. And
Oh my
here, I got
gosh.
my application here. All right, here we go. The little old lady.
Zooming over there.
Yeah, the little old lady, at the desk. She says, "Oh, Green Bay Diocese, are you Catholic?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, I'm actually applying to be a priest right here." She's like,
that's
"Oh, nice. I'll
nice.
pray for you."
Oh, that's
Wow,
great.
that's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
That's so cool.
So
Well, it's amazing to
Yeah.
hear. I mean, like what strikes me again is the small things that the Lord did to
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
draw you closer to Himself and give you to a place to say yes. And also what I'm struck by too is again like is the cooperation that you had with the Lord, right? I mean, the Lord invites us. He clearly speaks to us. He moves things in our lives and in our hearts to get us to where He needs us to be. But we eventually have to cooperate with that, and we have to be able to say yes. And we've talked about that so many times on the podcast. I feel like we're just beating the dead horse, but hopefully be back to life because it's just so important for people to hear that the smallest things, like even the little movement of the heart, the Lord's pulling you toward. You have to cooperate. You have to say yes to that. And did you have a lot of peace moving forward with it once you kind of got to a spot where you're like, I'm applying for this and this piece? Yeah.
Especially the last bit, I was going to adoration more and
beautiful.
And just some peaceful moments in prayer was the big deal. And putting the whole engineering degree behind, I graduated, finished my degree and I have that, so it's pretty cool. But one of my teachers, he had his PhD, he said he knew I was going off to study philosophy next. He said, "Oh, you're going to be a more true philosopher than I am," because PhD is, doctorate in philosophy,
yeah, sure, yeah,
specialized in engineering in his case, and I was like, "Oh, interesting." I had a lot of peace. Yeah, if I knew God was calling me, so God was used all of that for good, and we'll keep on moving forward.
Well, that's amazing.
It's good.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to share your vocation story with us. It's always beautiful to hear those things, and I certainly hope that it resonates with some people out there who are discerning their vocation as well. But would you mind closing us in prayer and giving us your blessing?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Holy Father, thank you and praise you for all the good you do in every one of our lives and the lives of our listeners. By your grace, open our hearts always to your promptings. We pray for continued guidance for anybody discerning your call to the priesthood. And as we each live out our vocations in life, may you sanctify us, that we may one day see you face to face and all those that our lives have touched. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Father Kevin, thank you once again for being here. Thank you for your yes. Appreciate all that you do for us, and looking forward to what you're doing next year in the Kairos Year. It'll be wonderful stuff. Thank you for all of our dear listeners. We appreciate you all listening, and as you discern your own vocation, may you always be keeping the end in mind.